It's crazy what we're able to overcome with our mind, and it's crazy what our mind is able to hold us back from. Trying to tap into that and break into that is really important. Learning that and trying to work with my wrestlers, because I definitely see it. Success for us is not based on wins and losses. Success for us is getting 40 kids out for the season and finishing with as close to 40 kids at the end of the season, and then getting that return the next year. The wins and losses are going to come. They're going to come with the work that we put in, and I'm looking forward to that journey that I'm going to have with this group of kids, because every journey is different. And every journey is going to be exciting. Every journey is going to be difficult. Every journey is going to challenge me and challenge them. Social media is great, being social and being able to do it, but it's also extremely dangerous and unfortunately causes more harm than good sometimes. But if you use it in a positive way, if you use it to enlighten people, the way that you guys do it, the way that Pete does it with his videos, the positivity and that stuff, that's awesome. But it is a dangerous beast, and it's something that we have to navigate as coaches, as adults, as parents, as teachers. Like, that stuff that we have to navigate with our kids. I missed the bus to go to a wrestling match down at Wesleyan University, which probably about an hour and a half from Johnson & Wales, and my parents actually came up still every single match, whether I was wrestling or not. They live in New Jersey. Ride to Wesleyan's about an hour and a half drive for them, so it's about halfway. They told me I missed the bus. They were still coming up. They wound up driving to Rhode Island, 3.5 hours away, picking me up and driving me to Wesleyan. Love and the commitment that they've had in me over the 15 years of my wrestling kind of blew my mind that they would do that for me. It's amazing what the mind is able to do. And, diving into that a little bit more that I've been able to do, it's definitely helped my wrestlers. I've definitely had some kids that have struggled with that and trying to find what works for them. It's not a cookie cutter approach for anybody.
And welcome back to Wrestling Mindset. Today we're here with the great coach, Chris Wells. Chris, thanks for joining us. Parsippany Hills.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a great honor to be here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, not too far away from me. And we're and just kicking off the school year now. So how have things been going?
Things have been going well. Just starting out with the getting kids ready for the whole school year. It's been a fun transition. Every year is good. I get freshmen, so I kind of get the cream of the crop with those new kids coming in. I get to mold those minds. It's a fun time. And being a phys ed teacher, it's a plus. It's a positive. It's a fun experience. So I'm really excited for the school year.
Yeah, we were just talking that you coach freshman soccer also. Talk about that, how it's important, different sports, that it could, it's good that there's some crossover. It could be recruiting. Yeah.
We, I've been coaching soccer going on 12 years, almost as long as I've been a head coach with wrestling. I started actually coaching soccer in Butler, played soccer in high school. It's great to have multi-sport athletes. I think that's important, whatever you're doing, especially at this age. And soccer's a great foundation for wrestling. Like we talked about, it's, the conditioning, the discipline to run the field for 90 minutes. It's tough and it's challenging, and it is a great recruiting spot for those freshmen that I see that can definitely benefit from the physicality of wrestling. If they're soccer players, I've had some success pulling some of those kids in, and it's definitely rounded out my wrestling team.
Awesome. Yeah. And seeing with Drew Roscos being the #1 soccer player in the state for multiple years, and then, placing high in the state of New Jersey, as high as 3rd. And we worked with his brother. We worked with him and his sister on their mindset for wrestling and soccer. It's mindset's mindset, right?
It is. It's a great catalyst to have you succeed, because nobody thinks about that. Or at least, growing up, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about, what my mindset was going into certain things. I definitely knew that, it was there, but growing up, it was always, you train, you work hard, you kind of work on the fundamentals, and, things will work into place, but taking in those intangibles of the outside influences and looking at brackets and freaking out sometimes, and who you got to wrestle next, and what do I got to do to wrestle, in the finals, and that stuff starts to kind of mess with you. But fine tuning that, and what you guys have been able to do over the years that you've been doing this is been amazing, and seeing the success that the kids that have been doing it, it's amazing what the mind is able to do, and diving into that a little bit more, that I've been able to do, it's definitely helped My wrestlers, I've definitely had some kids that have struggled with that, and trying to find what works for them. It's not a cookie cutter approach for anybody. And it's been fun. And I'm looking forward to being able to kind of work with you in the near future with that stuff. But, it's exciting. And the mindset is a funny beast, but it's something that is definitely beneficial to all athletes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you beat me too. You started talking about your career. Talk about your upbringing in wrestling and the transition to coaching, and then how that's led to your coaching philosophies now.
Yeah. I started in 92, second grade. It kind of crazy story. My brother played basketball for the local police athletic league. My dad was a coach, and I was the crazy rambunctious kid that ran around and didn't play basketball and just, created havoc. So much so that I wound up getting hurt pretty bad. I had a pool table fall on me, messed me up pretty good. And the wrestling team was the team that lifted the table off of me and kind of, it saved me a little bit. But the next year I started wrestling, and it turned out that one of the guys that was a coach at the time turned out to be my assistant coach in high school, Mike Flammer, a great Parsippany Hills wrestler. Things kind of working together, and the way that life is, run into him at such a young age, and then later on in my life and finding that out was pretty amazing. But I wrestled all the way through high school. Wound up doing fairly well in high school, placed in my senior year. And
you were 01 or 02?
02.
02. Yeah, we were the same year. Right?
Yeah, we're right around the same time. So I wound up placing my senior year, though in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't my most successful year. I had a lot of adversity my senior year. Wound up losing to the same kid probably 5 or 6 times. Meeting him, Greg Politti, great wrestler from Hanover Park. Met him pretty much every tournament that I wrestled in, regions, states, districts. I saw him every single time, and wrestling him in a dual meet, he cracked the cartilage off my sternum, so I had to battle with that throughout the season. Then back injuries, but I was able to push through it and get through that adversity, and wound up having the ability to wrestle in a state tournament and finally place in the state tournament. And then
from now until Fargo, our partners, Champion Athlete Wrestler Nutrition, the premier weight management program for wrestlers, will be offering a special Fargo nutrition program for only $350. That's $160 saving. Visit their website, champion-athletes.com, or call 800-324-1447 today.
Walking off the mat with a loss is not always the best feeling in the world. But that's when the opportunities kind of present themselves. That's when kind of building into my philosophy now, like walking off the mat after a loss, I wasn't throwing my headgear, wasn't, creating a huge scene. I was win, lose, or draw. You got to act the same way. Apparently caught the eye of Lonnie Morris at Johnson & Wales. And he came and talked to me. And, in my darkest moment of losing, though I placed in the tournament, not where I wanted to, having somebody reach out, and he was really the only coach that came and talked to me. I had all intentions of going to East Stroudsburg to wrestle, become a phys ed teacher, start my career, early, but, he changed my trajectory, and I wound up going to Rhode Island and being up there for 8 years, wrestling there, battling a bunch of things too. I blew out my hip my senior year and was able to battle back and wound up, finishing and getting a red shirt and finishing up a year later. But again, the adversity, I had some pitfalls and downfalls. After I got hurt, I wound up kind of getting into a depression and, go back to that mindset. My mind was all over the place because I didn't know if I was ever going to wrestle again, going on 15 years of this being my life. I didn't know if I was ever going to be able to do it again. And, I had a dark moments, doing the things that I shouldn't have been doing. And I wound up having kind of, we'll say, a rock bottom moment where I missed the bus to go to a wrestling match down at Wesleyan University, which it's probably about an hour and a half from Johnson & Wales. And my parents actually came up still every single match, whether I was wrestling or not. And they live in New Jersey, and a ride to Wesleyan's about an hour and a half drive for them. So it's about halfway. They I told them I missed the bus. They were still coming up. They wound up driving to Rhode Island, 3.5 hours away, picking me up and driving me to Wesleyan. And the love and the commitment that they have in that they've had in me over the 15 years of my wrestling kind of was just, blew my mind, and that they would do that for me. And, our parents would do anything for us, and I would do anything for my children. But, you don't think about that as a, 21-year-old kid. And that changed me, that shifted my mindset. And I was like, I gotta, no matter what, I gotta try to get back. And I wound up getting back and again, ended my career on a loss and feeling dejected. My college teammate, Pete Riley, was on, a few episodes ago, and, and he talked about that feeling of being like a loser. You feel down, you feel dejected. But in the grand scheme of things, what I was able to do, that tournament helped us win our first ever conference tournament for Johnson & Wales. And, from then, they've got exponentially better, won the national championship this year for the first time ever. And, all those things kind of molded me together. What I'd done in high school, my coach, Fred Piotrowski, Lonnie Morris, Brian Allen, I've kind of picked different things that they've done. And the fundamentals that they lay, the characteristics of building a great human being is kind of my philosophy. I want kids to be great wrestlers. You always want them to be great wrestlers. You want to be successful. But in the grand scheme of things, wrestling ends, your sport career ends. You want to be a great person. And the lessons that you learn in wrestling, in any type of sport, is what I want to instill in these kids. And that's really what I do. I build foundational skills. And then those kids that are higher level, we take it to the next level with them. And then the kids that aren't, we still stick with that foundational stuff and build upon that. But while we're doing that, we're molding them into understanding that wins are wins. They're awesome. Losses are awesome. Losses happen. But we learn from those losses. We use those losses to get more wins. We use those adversities, those injuries, those things that hold us back to allow us to grow into a stronger human being when we're faced with adversity later on in life. That stuff is we called upon, and you're able to kind of work through those difficult times. And I've definitely used that outside of wrestling, dealing with different things that come in life. And and I try to really kind of hammer that home with my wrestlers.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy just how that experience, when you zoom out, like it's hard to even see it in college. I mean, even first of all, just we look at it as a failure, like losing the last match.
Mm-hmm.
New Jersey is one of the toughest states year in and year out. So it's like you have hammers that are right next to you that you're competing with at your club and in the matches right around the area. So there's that aspect of it. Then just competing in college right off the bat puts you in like the top 1%. So, but when you zoom out from it, you don't see that in the moment because you're thinking about winning and success. But then as you zoom out, you start to see, like you said, the big picture and how, hey, maybe I didn't do so bad. And maybe the lessons that wrestling gave me go beyond just the wins and the losses, right? It's hard to see that in the moment.
Yeah. And it's funny because I'm not going to say I was extremely successful. I was a 4-year varsity athlete, wrestler. Though my freshman year was very minimal. I only had a handful of matches, but I wound up with like 80 something wins. I don't remember those wins. Yeah, I wound up with over 100 wins in college. I don't really remember the wins. I remember what happened when I lost, where I was, and everything that went into it, and what I was able to take out of those losses. And those are the things that I want my kids to understand. Like, take so much from failure, because failure is going to be there every single day in your life, whether it's a big failure or a little failure, and you won't learn from it. You build from it. You work upon what kind of led you to that failure. And failure is good. Failure is frowned upon. And, unfortunately, a lot of youth parents kind of see that as, my kid's not successful, but it really is just, great way for us to learn about ourselves and learn how to do something a little bit better next time.
Yeah, and like the parents shouldn't try to shield their kids from that failure. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's like one of those things. It's a both and. You want to remember the sting. The sting is important because that drives you, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's like and you need to learn the lesson, and then you got to let it go,
Yeah.
right? Like you mentioned before about wrestling the same guy over and over. We've all been there. I've been there
Yeah.
as well, and how
Yeah.
mental that is when I know I'm going up against the same guy, and a lot of times there might be people we wrestle with at either part of our wrestling club or part of Team New Jersey. And now there's probably even more overlap that guys are seeing. It's
Yeah.
just, it's mental.
Yeah, it really is. And wrestling the same kid. I mean, I was wrestling Greg Plitty for pretty much my whole career.
Yeah.
We've been at the same weight class or we've been off a weight class, but we've been around each other that our whole careers. And
Our whole lives, right?
senior-
You guys are probably like
yeah,
15 minutes from each other.
yeah. I mean, right around the corner. Hanover
Yeah.
is the next town over.
Yeah.
So I mean, middle school, elementary school, middle school, high school, we saw each other forever.
Yeah.
And it is that mental edge. I saw him as that great wrestler, and going into the matches, I kind of was a step behind because that mentally I was slowing myself down. And then I had some breakthroughs with him, and I'm like, he's not invincible. He's just like me. He goes to the clubs that I go to, or equivalent to what I went to.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I was a takedown away in region semis, and I had a takedown. The ref missed it. They always miss the takedown when you have it. But it was the best match I had with him. And I was right there. And then I wrestled him in the state tournament. I was dejected after dropping down, and how that is the Jersey slide. But yeah, it's crazy what we're able to overcome with our mind, and it's crazy what our mind is able to hold us back from. And trying to tap into that and break into that is really important. And learning that and trying to work with my wrestlers because I definitely see it. I have some top wrestlers that get in their own way sometimes. Over the last few years, and even now, there's some wrestlers that get in their own way because they kind of feel like they're not good enough, and they are, and they feel like that. This kid placed in the state last year. This kid is a state qualifier. I'm not at that level, but these kids that I have are at that level, and they just have to we have to work with them and understand that they can compete. They can be part of this elite level wrestling. So
Yeah. What are some of the biggest things you see them struggle with mentally? And then the parents probably see a lot with the parents too.
It really does, I think, stem a lot from the parents. I mean, growing up, there were some great wrestlers that I saw that got pushed really hard. And going back to that Pete Riley interview, the burnout. There's a lot of people that burn out, and you see it, and you kind of like feel bad about it because these parents are pushing them so much. They want success for their child so much that they're going to push them to the brink of kind of just breaking down or finding a different path. Maybe it's a negative path or just a path completely away from a sport that they might have loved. I had the benefit. I was lucky. I had parents that drove 5.5 hours to pick me up and to bring me somewhere because I made a mistake. I had parents that supported me. In 2005, I was about to quit. I was struggling with my weight. I was sitting in the foyer about to get on a bus, and I called my dad. I was like, I don't think I could do this anymore.
Mindset Monday is brought to you by our official sponsors, Eat Clean, bro. Make sure you order today, get them delivered right to your house, check them out, and make sure you put in your discount code MINDSET.
I don't think he's like, that's your choice, man. I'll support you whatever you want. And it's been that way my whole career.
Which is huge. That's not the standard. I just make it clear to everyone. That is not what every parent is like.
No, and he's like, whatever you choose, I'm there for you. If you want to call it quits, that's fine. Know that the journey that you've taken has taken you this far, and if this is the end of that journey, then that's okay. And I'll support that. But I'll also support if you decide to grit your teeth and keep going with it and continue. And I was like, again, that right there, I'm like, okay, he has my back no matter what. And I'm going to continue doing this, and I've had some terrible weight cuts and things like that where I know I was 12 pounds over the night before of a match, and I wound up staying in my parents' hotel room because they had a 24-hour fitness room, and I slept on a little ottoman because they were there to support me, and that was in college. It wasn't a rec thing, but yeah, it's wild to see these parents kind of break down these kids. And my kids, it's not that the parents are overbearing, but it's they definitely get roadblocks because they don't want to fail. That's the biggest thing, is they don't want to be unsuccessful. So sometimes they kind of self-sabotage, and they burn themselves out, or they get so over anxious that they're not able to perform fully because they're afraid to fail. And I see that, and I think it may be because they don't want to let their coaches down. They don't want to let their parents down. They don't want to let their team down. And if something happens that is out of their control, then it's okay. But a lot of times it's a self-sabotage because they're fearful of not being successful.
Right. Stem, yeah, it's one thing to just say, like, yeah, I could do well, I can succeed, but another thing to really feel it deep down. I'm capable of doing this, and I'm going to do this. And there's also a level of vulnerability that goes with that, because if you get in your head, no, I am going to be successful, whatever, however you define that, I set a goal, and then you fall short. We know the kind of pain, we know what that's like to come up short, and it really hurts. So it takes, it's a heroic act to really in your mind to say, I'm going to win this. And then to possibly have the heart broken. But that's that you have to have the big perspective of it's the sport, there's bigger lessons, and ultimately I'm doing better. It's all right.
Yeah. Sorry about the bell.
No, you're good.
But yeah, like and that's the thing too. Like it's taking a step back and reflecting, maybe even in the moment too. You're going through a tough match, and you're battling, and you mentally gotta be like, okay, I'm in this. I'm okay. I'm in it. I gotta stick with my the things that I do well. And, maybe I have to kind of then zone back in and get into it. But being able to kind of see the forest through the trees, but you got to step back. You got to step back to see the entirety of that forest. And that's really what it comes down to. That the journey that's taking you to where you are is amazing. The journey that you have ahead of you after wrestling is amazing. And you gotta be okay with that. You gotta be okay with not getting the result now, not getting that. And I think that's the problem too, is that they don't
delayed gratification.
It's about, I get everything here right now. I can get it. But I can't get that win right now. And that kind of sucks the life out of some of these kids too. And that's where you see the kids kind of stepping away from a sport that they may like, because they're not doing as successful as they thought they should be, or what their parents say they should be, or what their friends are telling them they should be. And it's tough, but those are the things we start battling through.
Yeah, and the social media also. Now you could see, you could see what everyone's doing, whereas like when we were younger, it was all. I knew your name back when I was in high school, not because we were always competing with each other, but because I would see in the paper, Chris Wells, 135, and I knew I was 140. So it's like, these are guys, but you would see the name in the paper. Now it's a little bit different, because now if we go back, if we're around the same weight, I'm seeing your feed. I'm seeing my friends comment on your posts. You're seeing your friends comment on mine. It's not just the New Jersey Forum with Johnny Appleseed or whoever back in those days. It's like you're actually looking at pictures of them, and you beat a good guy, there's a picture of you. If I do that, we're seeing it. So talk about that added dynamic with wrestling. I mean, in terms of, so a few things, like a lot of high school guys, they're looking at Bo Bassett. So it's like, that's the standard. Okay, great. But that is not, I was looking way more local, like immediate surroundings, which still had good guys, but that gives me a little bit of cushion versus looking at the absolute best, and the added dynamic of now seeing what other people are doing visually. Talk about that. I knew I threw a lot in there with you.
Well, it's the social media with anything, and I deal with this with my students. It's a way that kids they use it sometimes as a crutch, but they also use it and they see that they're not doing as well as others, and that puts a weight on their shoulders. That puts that extra anxiety on them, which is not going to allow them to do what they want to do.
Right.
Oh, this kid won this tournament, or he wrestled really well against a kid that blew, that teched me. I'm not going to be able to compete with that kid. And the highlight reels of how did he do that move, or
Right.
Oh, Bo Bassett commented on his thing, but he didn't comment on mine. They see these things, and they start to get they start to get that weight, that feeling of not being good enough. And it is scary, but it's one of those things you have to navigate. How can you not let the naysayers or the outsiders affect what you do? And again, those are the things that I like to try to instill with my kids. Like, hey, the media is the media, the social media is the social media. It's what other people think. It has nothing to do with what is. It's what people think, and people have their own opinions, and we don't have to agree or listen to anything they say. And more than likely, it's not truthful. It's what they're feeling. You're feeling something, that's great. Go with that. Do that. Make sure that it pushes you in the right direction. Don't let others, that negative, the negative words, or even when somebody's more successful than you, don't let that weigh on you, feeling like you can't be as successful or more successful.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
no, absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. It's just it's going to get more challenging, I think, because technology is getting so much more advanced. Because there's kids that may be out there that may use it in a way where they use AI to make themselves look a lot better, and now they put that out there, and now people start to fear them, that they're really good or whatever it might be. Like, there's things that may change how we look at social media or whatever it is, and that's going to start affecting kids as well. We have to kind of face that and combat that with how we teach them, and how we kind of get them to understand that what you see on technology and what you see is not always true. It's not always going to be the thing that is the reality.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Yeah, man, what is it with you and Pete? You guys are getting me. Both of you guys threw something at me that kind of got me thinking about something in a different way. Because now, like you said, the fact that guys can enhance the way they look, right?
Yeah.
So it puts out not a vibe, but it puts out an appearance to other people that could be like an advantage, you could say. On the other hand, if you're enhancing yourself, what's that like? How am I really feeling deep down?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not the tallest guy in the world. So if I wear shoes that have a little bit of a boost that bump me up a little bit, I'm a little bit taller. That, when you're younger, that gives you a little bit of an advantage in the dating circles or whatever.
I looked up those shoes as well. I'm not that tall either.
but yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
But you look it up, but you think about it, it's like, okay, it could give you a little bit of a boost, literally an advantage.
Confidence.
But on the other hand, if I'm always doing those things to enhance myself, how am I feeling deep down? It might look better externally, but internally, I could be feeling like I'm not good enough if I don't have that balance mentally and emotionally. We're not saying that you can't do things to give yourself an advantage, sure, but you have to also be careful and sensitive to how is that affecting the individual. That's a really good point that you make right there. Like I said, man, you and Pete, two different.
Yeah. The wild thing is, people have been doing that for decades.
Right.
With the self enhancements, with the plastic surgery, the people that go in and get the muscle implants because they want to look stronger, but internally they know that it's not real.
Right.
Now you can just do it digitally, so you don't have to get under the knife. Like those things. So it's
been going on. Exactly.
Yeah. If social media is great, so being social and being able to do it, but it's also extremely dangerous and unfortunately causes more harm than good sometimes. But if you use it in a positive way, if you use it to enlighten people, the way that you guys do it, again, the way that Pete does it with his videos, the positivity and that stuff, that's awesome. But it is a dangerous beast, and it's something that we have to navigate as coaches, as adults, as parents, as teachers, like that stuff that we have to navigate with our kids.
The time is now to take your mindset to the next level with Wrestling Mindset.
make sure you go to our website, wrestlingmindset.com, and sign up for your free trial session today. Don't wait any longer. You want the mental edge right now. When you sign up for the free trial session, you're also going to get a copy of our free ebook, Building the Predator Mindset. This book has helped thousands of people build confidence, relax under pressure, get motivated, and build mental toughness in wrestling, school, and life. Yeah, and whatever comes out in the future, there'll be the pros and cons of that too, right? I mean, exactly. Human nature is human nature, so ultimately you got to improve the individual human, because it might be different. It might be different modes, but the same kind of dynamics are always going to be going on. That's really good. That's true. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, good stuff, Chris. Anything? What else is going on? Anything else you wanted to share, or anything you have coming up?
No, just getting ready for the season. I'm having a little gathering today with my wrestlers, just to kind of see where they're at, get them kind of prepared for what needs to go on. But just getting ready for the season. It's going to be different this year. They added a week because of scheduling conflicts with the state tournament. And they pushed everything back a week. So we're waiting on match counts, what we're able to have. We're waiting on the realignment. That's always a funny thing because of, the powerhouse parochials, who's good, who's not good, who lost kids, who transferred, right. What kids left, public schools to go private, which happens all the time in New Jersey now. But it's, just getting ready for what I have coming up, and looking forward to this season. I got a great core group of kids, and when I'm in the hallway and somebody comes up and is like, "Hey, Mr. Wells, I'm thinking about coming out for wrestling." I'm like, "That's a great choice, man. Yeah. I can't wait to have you in the room." And what I always say, because we do the tryout period for wrestling, is they show up day one. I go, "Hey guys, congratulations! Everybody made the team. Everybody's on the team. I don't do cuts because there's no need to do cuts."
Right.
It's tough because unfortunately wrestling kind of self balances it out.
Right. Right.
Kids that are able to work through and I try to get those kids that are on the edge, that are possibly going to not follow through. Be like, "Hey, just stick out the season. Let's it's going to be a lot if you get through the season." But yeah, man, I'm really excited for it. Success for us is not based on wins and losses. Success for us is getting 40 kids out for the season and finishing with as close to 40 kids at the end of the season, and then getting that return the next year. The wins and losses are going to come. They're going to come with the work that we put in. And, I'm looking forward to that journey that I'm going to have with this group of kids, because every journey is different, and every right. journey is going to be exciting. Every journey is going to be difficult. Every journey is going to challenge me and challenge them. I got a lot of challenges that I already know are going to happen this season. I have 2 coaches that are going to go out on paternity leave, and I only have 3 coaches on staff, me and 2 others. So it's going to be a challenge this year, and but it's going to be fun. I'm gonna, we're going to find a way. I got great leadership. I got 3 returning state qualifiers. I got a bunch of region qualifiers. And I it's going to be a successful year. I mean, they're chomping at the bit to come into the room right now to come and hang out. But it's exciting. It's really exciting. And I hope that we get to work in the near future. I'm pushing my boosters to jump on it. And we'll try to get that set up. And I look forward to your successes and looking at your successes and hearing about that and watching that and seeing everything that you're doing. And I really look forward to being a part of that soon.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Chris. Awesome stuff. Really, really great information. Get me, thinking about some of the things I haven't thought about before. That's good stuff.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I appreciate this. I appreciate the opportunity. Going into this, I scroll back and looked at, your 400 plus videos that you have on the podcasts that you have on Apple Podcasts. I'm like, to be honest, I didn't see myself how I fit into somebody that's going to be on this, but I appreciate you talking to me, and I appreciate what you're doing and what you've done, not only for the sport of wrestling, but for athletics in general. I know you guys branched out more recently, but it's amazing what you guys do. And again, I appreciate it. I appreciate this. And I really look forward to being a part of the mindset, family in the near future.